Our karakia, so I'll ask everyone to stand. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā tara te kai. Ihi ake ana te atakura, he tio, he hoka, he auhu, tihei mauri. Right, we'll get into the agenda items. Everybody for today, so none of those. Item 2 is declarations of interest. I haven't been informed of anything about something to speak up. Item 3, confirmation of previous minutes. We can do these together. So this is from our last community board meeting plus a joint meeting. From the joint meeting minutes, we are only approving the part that we were present.
Stands to reason.
Yep. So Pauline's moved. Anita's seconded. Put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
That is carried. That's public forum. We do not have anyone today, so we'll go to deputations. A few on the list today. Lee is not here. So we'll go to Jane Robinson. Welcome along. You're going to speak about one of the proposed just shelters. So you just heads up, you've got for all the deputations, we've got 10 minutes, and that includes time for questions if there are any.
So it's in relation to 458 Barbados Street and moving of the bus stop from the next neighbour's house to 458 Barbados Street. I can't see any reason why, or there was any reason why it actually needs to be moved. The whole area that it's in now works really well. The only thing that needs to be tidied up is the gardens and the bark that's in there, because it is a health and safety issue for people walking through that footpath. There's also no rubbish bins there, so the rubbish ends up in the garden and in our property, which we have to clean up. And if they are going to put a shelter in, there's no reason it needs to be moved down the road, because there's no safety reasons why. I don't believe there's been any incidents there that it actually needs to be moved. And for the bus to pull into that place, it's got to go past the house on the other side of Barbados Street, Purchase Street. Then it's got Purchase Street. Then it can line up to where its current location is, and it can get out quite easily before it even goes past the end of our driveway on Barbados Street there. So they also said you can add extra road markings for the cyclist. They've got one that goes the whole width of Purchase Street, which is pretty big. And that's altering and moving anything. I don't actually think there's any actual real reason for it to be moved. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had on that. It's only short.
Did anyone have any questions? Pauline and then Alec.
Thanks for coming in to talk to us about it. So you don't feel that where it is now is too close to the corner?
No, because it's still got from where the corner is, there's an island, so there's another walkway there. So it's still, I do actually have a picture. It's basically 3 lines of the yellow lines. Yeah, so it is a reasonable distance away from that corner.
Yeah, I'll put it on here on the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you wouldn't mind it going, the shelter going in there?
That shelter, because there's a there is a seat there. So the shelter in there is perfect. It's not going to interfere with the neighbours there, because theirs is just a big block wall.
Yeah.
So the location really does suit that spot where it is now.
Yeah. And the downside of it moving along is?
We also lose parking there. because we have lots of people turn up because there's 4 units in that area.
Wouldn't they park there then?
That doesn't say anywhere in there that you're going to give any more car parks back. So even on the previous picture that you've got, that got sent to us,
Yeah.
it's all yellow lines. So now it's going to be
I
2
see.
houses plus the road. That's all going to be taken away.
Thank you.
Ali, you have a question?
No, I just had a question about your comment around health and safety with regards to the garden area.
Yeah,
What's the,
So on that same picture, and that all the plants overgrowing the footpath, and when they put fresh bark in, there's a massive chunk of it ends up in the footpath.
because it hasn't been done properly or it's burnt?
No, yeah, there's all sorts. There's birds, there's people walking in it. Yeah, and the wind blows it out there as well.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so it is quite dangerous. And if you do have any elderly in there, and we're starting to get younger, but there are a lot of older ones there, it can actually be quite dangerous for them.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
John, you have a question?
Yeah, I see on the report that one of the issues at 458 that kind of prevents this is a tree root problem, the old tree root issue with the private property there. Do you know who's at 458?
So for, yeah, well,
See, I'm
there's four, yeah,
looking at a
so,
picture of it there, the yellow building.
No, I think it's.
no,
white
that's
one.
the house next door, isn't it?
Yeah, white
Oh,
one,
okay.
458, and I think it's flats, isn't it?
Yeah, well, ours,
white one.
so ours are the white units.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah,
proposed location.
Yeah.
But the existing one is outside of
yeah,
the yellow house, right?
yeah, it is yellow, it's yellow brick.
Yes,
Same brick,
yeah, just getting my bearings.
Yeah,
Because I understand there's a tree issue that prevents it from being able to be put there, but we'll ask the staff about that.
yeah,
So thanks. I just wanted to
yeah. Cool.
spot on my photo.
Pauline?
Just one quick one, yes, so have you talked about this with your neighbours
Yes.
and how do they feel?
Some of them, 2 of them flat, the one at the front, he's not really that happy with it because he's going to have people standing there looking into his place, and he is quite private. And my flatmate, who owns the actual unit, she did put a thing in,
A submission,
submission in as well.
opposing.
Yeah, because she didn't like the people being there either, because sometimes she goes down and does some of the stuff, a little bit of the gardening around the letterbox and stuff like that. Yeah, so she wasn't very happy with that there either. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure all of the things that she had on his.
Thank you.
But
Thanks for that. Thank you for taking the time to come in. When I look at the new plan, it includes a new bus shelter when there isn't one there.
No, there's no shelter there now, but where this location that it is now, that shelter could quite easily go in there.
So that's what I was going to ask you what your thoughts were on
Yeah.
that, because I've asked staff when they come to the table later whether there's any impediment to the bus shelter being.
No, I actually think having the shelter there, and if they tidied that up, I think it
With
would
the
be
garden.
perfect. Yeah, those gardens definitely tidied up.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's all. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak to us. We'll be getting to that item shortly after other people have spoken, so
Yeah.
Marianne, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you.
Paul Matthew, who's here. No? Okay, we'll go to Darren Dean. At one of the other bus shelters, Rollston M1.
Yes, that's correct.
Welcome along.
Thank you for having me. So I've put together a great PowerPoint up there. So I'm also talking about a bus stop. So the bus stop I'm talking about is the one that's on Rollston Avenue. So I work on Rollston Avenue, but I'm here just representing my own views, not my employer's views. So I guess I just wanted to talk about the construction of the bus stop, particularly the glass and the sort of like the safety and the visual impediment it creates. So as an example of taking a bus stop from the Ferry Road, which I've just sort of highlighted there, and if you can maybe flick to the next slide, please, Mark. And that's basically what it looks like during the daytime. So it's kind of like a glass wrapped bus stop. So the next photograph you'll see is taken from that bus stop. And so essentially what you can see here is the reflective glare in dusk. So you can't actually see through that glass. So you should be able to see the park behind the trees and bits and pieces. All you can actually see at that point is a car, which is actually on the left-hand side on Ferry Road. So that doesn't actually appear there type thing. So it's quite, for a cyclist or a cycle lane user or a scooter person or someone that's stepping off the bus, that's actually not actually a fair representation of what's actually there at that present point in time. And perhaps, Mark, if you could flip to the next PowerPoint. Same idea. So next car coming through, zoomed in a bit more detail. You can kind of see that in those low light situations with street light reflections, headlight reflections, there's actually no clear. So the glass actually, whilst protecting passengers from the elements, actually creates a visual barrier. So that's possibly what I'd like to consider in terms of the actual construction of the bus shelter. If you go to the next. So in this one here, so this is the following morning. So this is back in a couple of months ago now, admittedly. So this is when I was waiting for the bus, and this is the view. So you can kind of see there's no clear line of sight through. If you flick to the next slide, we actually see, if you zoom in, there's actually somebody sitting there in a high-vis vest. So it's quite astonishing that someone in a high-vis vest is not visible through the glass. So naturally, my point really being the glass in dusk and sort of twilight zones is quite an impediment to a clear line of sight. So if we move on to the next slide, this is the bus stop in question. So it's a little bit unusual in the sense that the cycle lane that the bus passengers have to transit, it's not actually like a clear parallel line. It's actually kind of curved around a corner. So people approaching that, using that cycle lane, approaching the passenger, don't really have at that point have a clear line of sight with the passengers either getting on or off the buses. And likewise, the passengers almost have to walk into the cycle lane to see what's coming around the corner. So they don't have that sort of 3 or 4 seconds kind of buffer to kind of anticipate what's happening type thing. They almost have to be on the cycle lane to see what's coming type thing. So I think the risk is both ways. The risk is for the passengers, and the risk is also for the cycle lane users approaching that bus stop, not realising that there's a person about to cross perpendicular to them type thing. So, and that's really my commentary around that, is just if you could consider the issues that a glass structure could potentially create in the. So that's the main sort of point that I'd like to sort of convey, and there's a couple of things to talk about. If you can maybe flip to the next slide, please, Mike. So this was when the cycle lane was first consulted, that was back around it was around to sort of facilitate the museum rebuild, and then the cycle lane was pushed out into the road type thing. So we were told at that point that the cycle lane was a temporary sort of a temporary fix along Rolleston through Park Terrace there. So I guess the other point I'd sort of make is if it's indeed a temporary traffic measure, putting sort of capital investment bus shelters doesn't sort of line up with that idea of something being temporary. So that's really my point. So, and the next point, so the next page is actually the sort of the slice of that sort of. They'll try to sort of highlight the actual wording there that was mentioned around the cycle lane was a temporary sort of an easement, my words, not theirs, to facilitate the museum rebuilds. So going back to the point, are we sort of investing in capital structures for a temporary structure, temporary cycle lane, essentially? And the cycle lane itself, I mean, it's called a cycle lane, but I see there's all modes of transport use it. We've got these very fast moving electric things, and the bus passengers can come into conflict quite quickly with those fast moving objects. I think that's particularly risky around those sort of, particularly as we sort of towards daylight saving, you kind of got that sort of dust, absolutely. So between sort of 4:30 and 6:30 PM, I think there's some real risks there of people coming into conflicts, and likewise, say 7 AM to 8 PM when 8 AM when it's quite a busy. So you sort of have the traffic flow tends to be north to south from 7 AM to 8 AM, and then the traffic flow of that cycle lane tends to be, say, from 4:30 onwards, people leaving the hospital and heading back to northern suburbs, which is kind of, again, and that sort of, you've still got the intersection of the high volume and the dusk timeframes with that low lighting. So that's really something I'd just like the table to consider and have a think about. Perhaps there's other construction methods or the glass is maybe stopped at, say, shoulder height, so there's still like a clear line of sight through the actual whole structures, or maybe it's made of metal or something that doesn't reflect street lights, traffic lights, and that type of thing. So that's just really what I'm here to sort of say, could you please consider that as part of the whole wider scope? That's what I have to say.
Right.
Be happy to take any questions or any feedback.
Those are some great points you've brought up. Thank you. Pauline's got a question and then Jake.
Yeah, thank you. And so when you're saying we should look at another medium for the shelters themselves, is that across the city or just in these two locations?
Well, I think you could probably extrapolate that against any bus shelter that crosses a cycle lane. You could sort of say there's a potential to create a conflict in terms of the passengers or the cycle lane users can't see each other. So this particular example is of Ralston, for instance, but there's quite a few examples in the central city where people alighting from the bus have to cross a cycle lane. If there's a glass shelter around it, wrapping around it, that could create some conflict. So the reason I'm talking about this particular one is it's the one I'm aware of type thing. But I mean, you could sort of say that feature could crop up anywhere where there's a bus shelter crossing a cycle lane.
And also the museum is going to take at least 5 years. It's not that temporary.
Yes.
And the shelters are moving. And also we already have all the shelters.
Correct.
So it's a bit difficult, but
I'm not sure. Just
I think it's really interesting from staff. Thank you.
I think you kind of answered the question in your last couple of sentences, which is you're not saying don't put the bus stop in, you're just saying, can you look at some anti-reflective coatings?
I'm just looking at the glass, saying, hey, if it's going in type thing, would you, before it gets too late, would you consider not having the glass run or having the glass at a half height or something? Easy. Yeah, I think those photographs kind of demonstrate that the potential risk.
Interesting. Something I never thought of
No,
before.
me neither.
I think particularly if someone's sitting at a high vis and you can't see them, that's a real astonishing thing to struggle with. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just a thought on that. Is the issue, should there be better lighting around them? I mean, I'm just thinking, it could be solar lit, for example.
I actually think light creates
Makes
the
it work,
reflection.
yeah.
I actually think it
might
makes
be,
it
okay.
I think actually having them lit, the lighting backdrop actually washes up against the glass.
Okay,
So that may or may not, I'm not sure if that would be quite useful.
I have no idea.
I know. Who knows? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Right, thanks for your time.
Thank you for taking the time. Great points. Great. We'll now move to John Mitchell, going to speak to us about the proposed shelter for 44 Hills Road.
I've actually got some plans, so I could hand them round.
Yeah. Thank you.
Little something, isn't it?
Yeah, because I have realised, well, so never get here before you see stuff.
You're right over there, Emma.
So I thought doing the plan might be easy. From the neighbours, for me, loud and clear is don't move the bus stop, leave it where it is.
And what number is this again?
That's 44.
24 Hills.
Yeah, 44. And my main concern really is safety. By moving the bus stop, it creates problems for me. I tow a trailer and the trailer ends up somewhere around about 2 metres away from the roof space for the bus stop. If it's not moved at all, it's about 11.5 metres away and the traffic can move if the bus stop is moved to the new position, I end up by having a problem. As I come around the road down Northcote Road, down Hills Road, past Northcote Road, and I see a bus sitting in the new spot, I've got no way of getting into my house at all, full stop. I can't stop in the middle of the road because I create a hazard. All the cars will stop because they can't get past me, they can't get past the bus. And within 40 seconds or so, you have 50 cars plus banked up. And it's not good. I've had it before with trucks that have come along that road where the bus stop is now, and they can't get past. And I've had the police come along, not for me, but going somewhere. I can't get out of the way. So I'm sitting there in the middle of the road, my lights, flashing my lights like this, saying, "Don't hit me." So I've had a look. I talked to John before, and he had a look at 40 Hills Road, and there's a paling fence. If you have a look at 40 Hills Road, there's a paling fence, and a bus shelter would actually fit in there quite well. So that would be my suggestion. But the general census from the people is that they don't want to go around. They don't mind going around the back of a bus to get out onto the street, onto the road, but they don't want to go around the front of the bus, get out onto the road. So once again, my advice: don't move it. Just put it in the new position, in the existing position.
Great, thank you. I'll just jump in quickly for you, John. At the moment, though, the bus stop is across the driveway. Does that cause issues with it?
No,
You
not
can't get obviously in and out of that driveway when the bus is there. So are they stopping traffic at the moment if they're happy to wait?
well. It slows the traffic down, but it doesn't actually stop it. And people going out through that driveway, they don't mind just waiting, because the bus is only there for about 20 seconds. So. And I've timed 3 people getting on the bus, and it is 20 seconds. That's not long.
Your problem is the trailer.
Problems getting it.
Trailer.
I've got problems with that.
Oh, John, I recall that you measured the space of where that existing stop is to determine if one of these new shelters would fit there. And
And it does fit.
yes, you're certain of that?
Yes, I am.
Very good. Yeah. And you marked it too with.
I did. I've marked it on the fence.
Right. Thank you.
You mean it's number 40?
At number 40, yeah, the existing.
Ellie?
Interested in your comments, and look, don't take this the way it's going to sound, but we can't work out where buses go depending on what people's vehicles and trailer use is, right? So what I'm wondering is, if we did, well, I'm suggesting we don't take that into consideration as being fair, because then what happens when number 44, so you're 44, number 40 comes to us and says, I've got a camper van and I can't, manoeuvre that because of the whatever. What I want to ask is around the safety of that corner more. So moving the bus stop closer to that corner, in your opinion, would that cause more safety issues as far as visibility and things like that go?
It's not on the corner.
It's the driveway, Ellie.
The 50, I beg your
Driveway.
pardon, I beg your
It's a
pardon.
driveway.
Sorry, I'm looking at 50 Hills and I thought that was a wide access way. There are multiple houses down there, are there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
down that 50 Hills or
Not. It doesn't affect 50 at all.
no? Okay,
It's at 40 Hills Road,
40, okay,
right?
Yep.
So leaving where it is the best option. Just leaving the bus stop where it is and putting the shelter at number 40.
right. And the neighbours are in agreement as well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Any more questions? No?
Pretty clear.
Made your
Can't be clearer.
very clearly. Thank you very much. And the last deputation we have for today is Grace. From the Business Beauty with Grace.
Yes, thank you,
Did you come up-
everybody.
did you come up with the name?
Big name, it's Parvinder Kaur, but you can call me Grace, it's fine. My customers gave me that name. And we are really struggling with the parking for my business at the moment. Because the cross the road, dairy, everybody, they got their own parkings on front of their business. And the other side, the other lane of the businesses, they got the parkings as well. So we are not considered, we are not thinking about us. So my staff park away from my business and they just walk for 5 minutes or so, but that's all right. But we are just, anything we can do is for my senior citizens. Whenever they come to my business, they hardly find the parking. And sometimes they come into the taxis with the walkers. So they need to walk really just way around. And even if they just like cross the road, they're parking, it's really hard for them to walk from there because it's really, really busy road over there. So I'm just thinking about if I can have just like 2 parkings here because it's all bus lane on front of my business. So as I think nearby, not near my business, but it's a house here on front of
House around Grace.
how, yes, yeah. Maybe 1 or 2 parkings will be fine. Because I think new project coming as well again. The person came to me, they're starting something over there. If only they just remove the yellow line from there. So on my side, that will be great.
That's the.
Because all my senior citizens, that like old people, they always come and complain me about that. So even like, you know, if they're coming for 1 hour, 30 minutes, and then it's hard to find the parking for them, and then they need to go back and just move the car back again. So which is like really hassle for my customers, especially for the senior and aged people. So other customers are okay, they're just finding me now because it's my new business. So before it was really hassle because I don't have my own parking, but that's all right. I don't mind that. I'm just agree with the council, whatever they're doing around the road and everything. But I'm just looking for only 2 parkings for my senior citizens on my lane.
Yeah, Ellie?
Thank you. I'm just curious, and I haven't asked you this actually until now, when, because we've got an item coming up in the agenda about
Yes.
the time limited parking around the corner by Willow.
Yes.
And this actually all came out of a conversation that you had with me.
Yes.
So when you've talked to council staff as this issue has progressed, you've suggested 1 or 2 parks in that location outside your place?
Yes.
Yeah. And what feedback did you get from council staff on that?
They were like, yes, they can do it. Because it's like on my side, it's all yellow line. Because of maybe the bus lane or I don't know about that. But the other side, they have like their 1 hour, 30 minutes parking, and then after that, no limit parking as well on the cross of the road.
That's the Korean restaurant and the
Yes.
bar and okay.
Yeah, even like so many businesses closed because of the parking issues. Like front of mine, it's like 2 restaurants, they closed it because people just want to sit and eat. In between, they just like don't go and move the cars, you know, and then they just lost in the business and they just close it. And I don't want to close my business. I really looking to work on that things, like whatever is issuing for me at the moment. That's why I'm here to talk with everybody. If you guys can help me, that will be great.
Thank you.
Sorry, which address is your business?
It's 2/95 Westminster Street.
Yeah.
The Westminster Street.
Yeah,
We just-
But it fronts onto Cranford.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
It's where the cafe is. So Origin's on the corner.
Yeah, Origin
Yes,
on
I
the
know.
corner.
Yeah, I know,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. So mostly the Origin Cafe, they just got the parking, most of the times, like their customers keep on coming and moving, because as we are new business, they are old. So they have their customer base and then their customers coming and parking. And it's hard for my customers, but they park around now if I request them. One old lady, she came to my business. She just parked across the road and then she got the ticket. She spent only $50 with me and she got $50 ticket. And then she came to me, I need to give her $50 and I didn't get anything out of it. And then I paid for her because that's not her fault. So that's what is all the problems coming for me. So if you guys consider that thing for me, that will be really, really, really great.
Yeah, we can, when staff will present that report to us in a wee while and we can ask the question.
So the item we've got, extending the parking on Westminster from 30 minutes to 60, will that help you?
30 minutes to 60 minutes is it's all good with the other customers. But if we just go with the senior citizens, like, you know, mostly my customers are senior citizens and they need on front of the shop.
Right outside.
Even they're coming in taxi, so they can just walk straight to my shop. like somebody can park over there and then they just stop them or just like that. So otherwise, they just really hard for them. One lady, she's my regular. She just come for the services with us and she just walk through with the walker and sitting and walking, sitting and walking. And I don't feel good for that. It's really sad, watching somebody like they just can't walk and then they need to walk all around.
Terrible corners.
It's very busy. It's very busy and it's a busy market at the moment. I think it's a growing market at the moment. So if you just consider something, I think some more shops will open over there because people just keep on closing their businesses.
So what's the maximum distance do you think that your elderly can walk?
Maybe I don't know I'm not good at the maths, but I think it's 50 meters or something like that. So I think like from my shop, it's like this.
So how many
this is my
steps
shop.
maybe?
This is my shop, this is that house, and this is the parking here. So they can just just like walk from there. I don't think so it's gonna be issue, because it's only yellow line over there. If you just want to put some time, like,
I know the
that
yellow
would be
lines
fine.
are recent, but
Yeah.
okay. We'll get
Right.
started.
Thank you. We'll find out from staff, the reason
Oh,
for the
thank you,
being there.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
I think that's all our deputations. Yeah. Right, so we'll move on to item 6, presentation of petitions, which is the Antini. And that takes us to our staff report. We might go, we'll do the bus shelters first, and then we'll move to the Westminster Streets, since we've got the public here for those two. So item 9, the bus stop installations. Wow. So you want to speak to the report, or did you just want to answer the questions that were raised in the deputations maybe?
But we are fine with both.
Either or, depends on
Either.
how you want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, everyone would have read the report, so maybe if you
Yeah.
address those things that were brought up in the deputations, it'd be great, and we can go to.
Right, so I will start with the bus stop outside 458 Warwick Street. I think I also have provided a PowerPoint, so if we can have it on the screen, I can better explain what's the problem. Yeah,
So which one are you talking about?
458
Yep.
Warwick
Okay, that's-
Street. It's slide number 5. So our approach generally in this project is that we proceed with installing the shelters and we don't move a bus stop unless it's necessary from the lack of space or operational issues or safety issues. It's from the report, we have had like 24 or 5 bus stops, but we just moved like 5 or 6 of them, which we have identified to have problems. With this one, if we proceed with the installing the shelter at the current location, we are highly likely to destroy the trees inside the private property. That's because the foundation that we have for a shelter is quite different to the foundation for a seat that you already have there. The other issues that we have here is a safety concern, and that's the pinch point between that bus stop and the pedestrian refugee. So you see there is a cycle lane coming through the bus stop. And when the bus is at the stop, then we have the pinch point. The bus stop is actually very close to that pedestrian refugee. So our recommendation is to relocate that. We have considered a different location as it's in the report, north of the intersection. It then cause us to have a parallel bus stop configuration, which is again not safe. And then the proposed plan, which we found it safe. And also we have also considered the next house after these, the proposed one, but we don't have enough spacing without interrupting the driveway. So the problem that we are solving here is that removing that pinch point for the road users. This is the reason why we are relocating this bus stop.
When did the refuge go in? Is it
I
recent?
think
Is
there
it
was
4
one
years?
stuff, all of those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we'll go John and then Jake.
Move the refuge.
Hi, thanks for explaining that pinch point. Just putting that aside for a moment, the trees, the private trees, is it possible that the owners of those trees may sign off and have no problem with them being risked? Like, I mean, if that could eliminate that problem, if the property owner say, hey, we'll take one for the team,
Reply?
neighbourhood doesn't like it, they may have even submitted.
It's probably a body corporate, it's block of flats, isn't it? It's with the-
Worth a fly, but it doesn't solve the pinch point. So
It doesn't have the pinch point, yes. Yeah, and we also have that power pole there, so depending on the experience of the bus drivers, some of them may try to like stop further from the curb, not hitting that power pole. It makes the pinch point problem worse even. So yes, it's possible we go and talk with those residents about the trees problem, but we still will have the pinch point.
Jake, you had a question about that one too?
If we don't approve any of these stops today, what happens to the money?
So from our funding agreement, we must purchase the shelters before the end of June.
So the shelters go elsewhere today?
We buy them and we have to then, we have to store them and we have to pay for the storage and work out on the, like, the other stuff.
So we would have a shelter, but nowhere to put it at the moment.
Yeah.
Eventually we'd dig it out and
Yeah.
council garage, or
Clean it.
wherever we have it.
Like it's not put it.
Yeah.
And it's not cheap, the storage. I've had in the report.
Oh, so there would be an extra cost
Yes,
associated with
yes,
it.
there is in the report.
It'd be good to know where that came from too.
This council got no storage area.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna ask. It's all right, we can get to that, I'm sure.
Vic's got a question on this one.
Slightly off-piste. My question is around whether the shelter has to be immediately adjacent to the bus stop. And the reason I ask it is one of the stops that I use is on Hereford Street, right by our HQ. And we have a shelter which is here, but a bus stop which is along here. So is there an option to keep the bus stop where it is and build the shelter somewhere else along slightly adjacent? Because it,
But it's
The ones
the
that I-
shelter you're objecting to.
yeah, they are objecting to the shelter, but in the round, is that an option for some of these? Does it have to be immediately adjacent to the bus stop? Because I've seen the practices where the shelters are not immediately adjacent, and have you considered that at all?
Yeah, so it's the best practice to have it within the bus box based on the guide, but it's not a must. Like, so we have had a few cases across the city, not frequently, a few cases that we have it outside of the bus box, for example, the shelter. But I think here, like, both problems are like major problem, both the shelter location and also the pinch point with the cyclists, if you're talking about this bus stop. So that is a really like safety concern.
So for the resident that spoke to us, his issue was getting out of the driveway.
Mhm.
So there wouldn't be the same issue because the bus wouldn't be stopping in front of his driveway.
No, that's.
So no, it's not,
Oh, that's Hills Road, different one.
yes, it's a different one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's really is the pinch point, and we think, and if you ask the question, what came first, the bus stop or the pedestrian refuge? The bus stop was there first.
I have to check these,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Which is,
Pretty sure. it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emma, you got a
So there was a
question?
pinch point then.
So apparently there is a bus stop 7 houses down.
Yes.
Why is this bus stop needed?
Well, so bus stops facing, they've been there. I acknowledge that there are some bus stops. It's facing which exceed the best practice, which should be like 400 meters, but they are like closer. I don't know why they're coming in, but if we want to like look at also the bus stop spacing and try to solve this, this should be like a route-based project. We couldn't like look at it at a local bus stop and try to like remove one, we should look at the whole route at once and try to optimize the bus stop spacing. In that case, we are also likely to keep this one because it's well used. So we are installing the shelters at the well used bus stop.
How many again? Sorry, I can't remember.
But it wouldn't be well used if it wasn't there. The other one would be.
Good call.
25 per day.
25 a day.
Yes.
And so the one 7 houses down, how many times is that used?
I haven't checked that, but in our project, they definitely can have lower than these numbers that we have today because we have investigated all the bus stops in the area, and those that have a good number, we are working on that and proposing the.
And I think the problem is that the next one's really close to Believ, so there wouldn't be another one for a long time after that.
Yeah.
And
Previous ones, a few.
Sorry, it's 20 per day. So
20, yeah.
Yeah.
The second one.
This one, we don't have the data for that other one. Yeah.
And sorry, so how far up is the next one?
It's right at the camp.
Oh, yeah.
15 houses.
So could we look at moving it right up? The other direction?
So our.
Yeah, the next block.
it's another whole piece of work though. Can't
Yes.
just-
I think that would form.
Obviously, you've chosen this one because it's the busiest out of all the stops down that street.
That's true.
Ellie?
Okay, so if this, as Emma just said, is, you know, a key one because of the numbers there and the issues with the pinch point and stuff, and you've got a cycle lane basically ending and going up the back of a bus, which never makes sense to me, but the refuge there, which is problematic and causing an issue, isn't it, with the pinch point, was there a consideration on moving that?
We didn't consider that. I think the distance between the refugee and the bus stop is the problem. So I think it's much cheaper to move the bus stop instead of the refugee.
Be good to see some costs on that though too. I don't like that as an assumption. If there's a problem and that refuge is causing the problem, surely we have to consider that.
It would be in a safety report for the downstream management plan, I'm sure.
I've asked my question, thanks.
Any more questions on this one? No? Okay, do you want to move on to addressing the next one that was raised?
No, sorry, I think there was one, and that, I think you were going to ask that earlier about the cost of the storage.
Oh, are we asking general questions or we just?
Maybe just ask questions on these specific
This
stops.
one, if we choose not to put it in, if we
Okay.
go into storage.
Yeah.
And so the cost, why is it so high at 35?
Well, so based on the council policy, we have to physically receive the shelters to be able to pay for that, right? So, and we have the manufacturer here. We need to pack them safely and then move them to a storage yard. So, and that's quite expensive to do that. We have a contractor to do that. And this is quite expensive to pack such a big product and then safely transfer them to the yard for storage.
Got some space at mine, yes.
Can I just comment on that? I found that quite outrageous hearing you say that. There are people building and construction in Christchurch every single day. To pack up a bus shelter and move it and stick it somewhere should not cost $39,000. So, and I think the point that Jake's making about there's room at his place, I think there are many places in our city that we would have to put there. With those comments that you're making and the costings that you're giving, before we accept those, I want to see some quotes and costs on those,
Yes, we
please.
have hard codes. We can share those codes.
Thank you very much.
And just one last one, if we were to leave the bus stop where it was, and as Victoria suggests, put the shelter outside the house at 458, do we move the seats or does shelters come with seats? Because some of them do have them built in. don't they?
Well, it depends on the number of passenger using that. If there's high, 70 or 80, we keep the seat and also
Yeah.
the shelter. But in these cases, the seat can be removed.
So we could do an option where we leave the bus stop where it is and leave the seats there and just put a shelter that would be used when the weather's inclement. And then there's not people standing there all the time looking in. So it's a kind of a compromise where probably I'd say people would normally wait at the bus stop
Does it address?
It's quite sheltered.
Does it address the pinch point?
It's not addressing.
No.
No, but the pinch point is an existing thing anyway. But
Something where we're not debating at the moment, so we're still on questions. Emma, you've got.
But anyway, so the answer to that is yes, it is possible to do that.
Well, it wouldn't remove the pinch point.
No, but
problem,
you could,
yes.
yeah, thank you.
Sorry, but is the pinch point going to be removed though?
Not with Pauline's proposal, no.
No, I mean in general,
If you move the
If
bus.
we move the
then
bus
come.
stop,
Yeah.
outside 458.
it will stop that. Okay, right, okay.
Emma, you've got a question?
Could we tell you to put the bus stop somewhere else?
Where are you suggesting, Emma?
I'm thinking.
Well, I'm thinking of Cranford Street because,
Oh, the shelter,
the shelter. There is a bus stop outside BP, well used. People have, locals have been calling for a bus shelter there for years and years. Some of them have died.
What,
Us.
waiting?
Yeah.
Off the bus?
Yes.
So you've been.
The shelter.
I'm waiting for the shelter.
I know.
Now, why is, what, could you look at putting this extra shelter there?
If it's in the scope of the project, so the project from the funding agreement that it comes, it has some scope, which bus stops in the city. It is normally the eastern suburb, northeast, southeast, and the central part.
That's right.
So this is based on the
Sorry,
agreement.
can you repeat that, sorry?
Suburb specific.
So this is the scope of this project is just for some specific suburbs in the Christchurch based on the funding agreement that we have had. So these.
Well, Barbados Street's in St Albans and so is Cranford Street, so.
I have to check that if it's in the
Oh, I
scope,
can
we
tell
can
you, I
consider.
know.
No, you don't know what the scope that that's got is. And so, if you could check that.
It's in the report, Linwood, central, eastern, northeast and southeast suburbs.
But that's really broad, Pauline.
Yeah,
So-
we're only talking a
Yeah.
few blocks.
Yeah.
And so we have investigated the well-used bus stops that don't have a shelter in these suburbs.
Well, this one happens to be on a road where we've just, accepted a bus lane on it, so. And there, we know there's more buses coming down that road, and therefore they'll be going back up the road.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, I've just got Victoria and John first. Go Vic.
So let's assume that there is another potential location to receive the stop, to receive the shelter, so we don't incur the cost and we can put it in somewhere else and it's within scope. Do we still have an option to then move the bus stop and this one doesn't have a shelter? Because
We still have the pinch.
Just leave it there.
no, because if we move it, then we remove the pinch point. And
Yes,
is that,
we can go with that.
and I'm trying to recall what the speaker said about that, or what the issue
The
was.
same problem, people will be standing.
Did it resolve the issue for the speaker then?
I can't remember.
He wanted the bus stop to stay where it was.
Want the bus stop to stay where it was,
Yeah, because it's
or was it the shelter that you didn't want outside your place?
Well, they were both
all
being.
part of that same area. And that, and then you're gonna have,
Can't get rid of buses.
with the mix that people leave, you get on the bus, they just throw their own products in the garden. That's gonna end up in.
And the property.
Rubbish bin there.
Put a rubbish bin there.
Sorry, Shane, unfortunately, you're not meant to be speaking.
Sorry, Shane, I got you in trouble there,
Put on the spot there.
Yeah.
sorry.
Hold on. Got John.
Yes, if we weren't looking at the potential shelter, would we even be talking about this pinch point?
If it was raised by like a customer or cyclist.
It could have been, but yeah, we probably wouldn't have been cognizant of it.
No, it'll be in the safety report.
If we don't install a bus shelter here, what would happen with regard to that?
We investigate the next potential well-used bus stops, and it might be any bus stop within those suburbs that are in the scope of the project.
But it goes to the
Yes.
next one.
If it goes next.
Right.
to the list.
Yeah.
Right. It's not necessarily within
Missed
this.
out.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so if we like decline this shelter, it goes to the next bus stop on the list. It
Right.
might be on other areas of
So-
the city, not necessarily within these.
So it's not just,
Yeah.
it's not just that we wouldn't install a bus stop somewhere else and it would go in storage. It's just like going east on the left, so it's fine. There's no big deal.
Well, no, we need to keep them out.
Okay, hold on, we've got Pauline and then Victoria's got another one, and then Ellie.
We're
Well,
going to get through this meeting.
I was just going to ask what the time frame was if we said no to this, find another place for the bus shelter. Have you got time to do that? Within the time frame of having to pick up the shelter?
So, these reports are part of a bigger project.
Yes.
We already have got approval from Waipapa on board.
Yeah.
And we can start the delivery, the
Yeah.
construction.
Yeah.
We also start the construction on those approved today.
Mhm.
And then at the same time, we also work on the left ones and, yeah,
So you have time.
What is work?
we do our best, like we obviously should store a few of them, but we do our best to make it happen.
And so the other question is that it would, am I right in thinking it would not be appropriate for our board to say, we want one at the BP, we could say it, but you already have a priority list.
And then you can come
Is
to
that
us.
right? Yeah, okay.
Can you pick one from our region?
Yeah.
Questions, Victoria, then Ellie.
Okay, so in the realm of problem solving here, if we choose not to approve this one with a view to putting one somewhere else, what is the pathway that we use to address the pinch point issue and
Yes.
move that pedestrian island somewhere? What does that look like and how do we do that?
So we can raise this to the traffic operation teams.
Okay,
Stalin. And we can work on the different options. One of them that obviously we are proposing today is just to relocate the bus stop. And as you said, the other one could be relocation of the refugee. We have to check that out with the feasibility from the technical point. Yeah, that's the process.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ellie and then John.
Thank you. And look, sorry if I had missed this. I did see the criteria for this, but because it wasn't specific in suburbs and so forth, I thought it was a little broader than it actually was. So what I'm hearing, which I wasn't aware of, is that there are possibly, in fact, likely bus stops around the city, very close to where you may be putting these, that are far better utilised than the ones we're putting these shelters into. That is possible.
There might be some bus stops in the western part of the.
But as we've just heard, there may be one in our ward as well outside the BP, which is literally a couple of blocks from where we've been talking.
Yeah.
That could be far better utilised than the ones you are considering. So the criteria that was put in place for this was put in place by whom?
Well, it was based on the agreement with the NZTA and the funding that comes in.
I think it was initially self-funded.
Yeah, it was initially
And it
self-funded.
Went to council at one point to change the scope slightly based on
Yeah, so it was one of the SURF projects that was cancelled after the new government came in. The initial scope was just very focused on the Linwood area.
There wasn't enough.
And like after that project being shut down, we still had the agreement for the purchase of the shelters.
Yeah.
But now we have to install the shelters with the council money. So that's why we went back to NZTA and said that can we use it better? Like not just on Linwood, like all the values across the city. And then we had some negotiation, we investigated a couple of options, and then the current scope was the one agreed by NZTA, and then we also was approved by council, I think, in December. And that's why we are doing now.
Okay, so there's little point in going back over it, but I'm still struggling to understand who it was that drove this location-based criteria. And what I struggle to understand is why you would even do that in providing shelters in areas or for bus stops where they are not as well utilised as perhaps the one outside St Andrews on Papanui Road. And I don't know because I haven't driven around looking at them, who may have many children standing outside, but we're putting one on a road that has 5 people use it every day. Understand where I'm coming from on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a done deal and I'm still expressing some surprise and concern about that. Are we talking about these specific ones or are we?
Questions about this specific one.
Okay, that's fine. So what you're saying is the pinch point that is the issue with this Barbados Street one is not your area. It would have to be referred to a different council department.
Yeah, the pinch point is just.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hearing
okay.
them.
All right, thank you.
John?
Yes, thank you. I've forgotten what I was going to ask. Oh. Each of us has probably everyone here at this table can think of a viable alternative location instead of this particular spot. I wonder if we, for example, my one is, there was a bus stop similar to these, a shelter was taken out by a four-wheel drive last year on Ferry Road near Ansell's Road, and it's been cleaned up but never reappeared. How can I know if that appears on your list of next alternatives? Well, or indeed MSBP? Can we see that list?
I am following that case. Actually, that was an advertised bus shelter, which is owned by Omedia. After that accident, they removed the shelter, but didn't reinitiate that. So I'm following that they reinitiate another shelter there.
Okay.
Oh, thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But back to this one.
Yeah, so as I'm saying, like, I think we are targeting well-used bus stops. The patronage list is attached to the report. All are close to 20 or more passengers per day, which is the traditional established threshold of the CCC for installing a shelter. So all of them are well-used. We don't have a bus stop like with 5 or 2 passengers installing a shelter there. And again, about the scope, it comes from the agreement with the funding provider of the.
Sorry, the well-used is used as the city council's well-used, which is 5 or more, yeah?
No, it's 20 or more, about 20 or more
Buses.
passenger per day.
If we decline these stops, we can't just go put them willy-nilly. They should go to the next most highest priority area. Well, you know.
In the project.
Yeah.
And there are.
Yeah.
There are.
Right, any questions on this particular shelter? No, do you want to move to the next one that was brought up then? Okay. Was the Rolleston area.
Rolleston out, yes.
Mm.
Yes, if we go to the slide number. So, yeah, about the capital investment on something that it might be not permanent. So we know that we clearly mentioned that in the report. The reason that why we are doing this, it's a well-used bus stop, and it's been requested by community a couple of times for a shelter there. And also because of the island, we even don't need a foundation for the shelter. We just build the shelter on the island. And if the layout was not approved to be permanent in future, we just unbolt the shelter and install it another well-used bus stop. So this is about that point. About the view, if we go to slide number 10. So we are talking about the sight line between the pedestrian alighting from the bus and wants to come to the sidewalk. So based on this, I've shown a couple of points where we have uninterrupted actually sight line between those locations that a passenger alighting from bus and coming to sidewalk can be at point number 1 or 2 or 4. There is no interruption sight line. They are looking at the cycle lane without being interrupted by the shelter. In point number 3, you have the shelter in front of you, but still the shelter is full glasses. So that concern for like having the light and the glare in the glasses is relevant to a specific hours of the day or night. And we still have point number 1, 2, and 4. And for point number 4, it's not very well shown on the plan. If we go to the next slide, it's very clear that how much sight line we have uninterrupted even. And so compared to current condition, after this concern was raised, we installed 3 more bollards to ensure that the space are not interrupted with like a cycle is. So
Is it the dog?
yeah, those dots. So yes, the plan has been reviewed multiple times. We've been on site multiple times, and we confident that we shouldn't have a sightline problem there. Yeah.
Sweet.
We've got Emma and Simon.
Can we go back to the last slide? So, would it be possible to put the bus stop on the other side of the concrete slab
Like,
against the bus stop?
Sheltering.
Sorry, the shelter. Put the shelter over to the other side where you've got the people, number one standing. So is it like, and have
oh, you mean closer to the traffic lane? No,
but have it turned so the back of it
Mhm.
is on the, against the road.
So we have to have some like roading clearance from the traffic lane. So when buses like swing in, they might be heated, like the shelter might be heated. But this is also an option. We can consider that. But if we put it there when the that location number 1, then it will be like block the bus front door and
It will
block the bus front door. Is there when the bus front door opens?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, right, yes.
So there has to be sufficient space between the shelter and the bus.
Yes.
Right. Simon?
Yeah, two quick ones, just regarding the glare and the visibility. Just checking, is there any advertising plans in these shelters?
No, it will be just a simple shelter. All wall will be glasses.
Because yeah, the photos we saw, I think, had a like a poster, the poster display which was lit, which
Yes.
I'm wondering if that would contribute to glare. And I'm also interested in wondering if this shelter could be moved, but in the other direction, essentially onto the grass verge, further away from, about where that mouse is there, or a bit to the left of that, Mark. Could it be moved there somewhere? Would that be helpful?
It was considered, like, I think 2 years ago that this project was going on, and the main concern there is that there are like big trees over there, and the roots are potentially to be affected by the foundation of the shelter. If we go there, we need a foundation, so, which is a concrete foundation, and we might affect that. The other thing that I remember from this is that the major part of that sidewalk is not on the road reserve, it's on like park and heritage reserve. So we need also the approval and.
Okay, no, that's fine, thank you. And I take your point about it being bolted straight down onto the concrete slab there. Thank you.
Victoria?
So moving on, if this is not a permanent layout here, can these shelters be repurposed and relocated elsewhere?
Yes, definitely. And it's a cheap one in this case because, as I said, we don't need the foundation, just walk to the island.
Okay.
So if it wasn't permanent, we just revoke these, install it in our somewhere else.
Sorry.
So have you had the issue with glare at other places?
Honestly, not.
No.
I haven't had ticket from like cycles or.
So hearing about that glare issue, what are your thoughts? Do you automatically think of any sort of solutions that would help reduce that glare?
Well, we thought about like having the shelter lit, like a solar panel, but we wasn't sure enough about that. But like one thing that we may investigate later for the next shelters process is that can we like have any certain types of glasses that they don't have that glare issues? That's something that I will investigate.
But let's be honest, it's not a real problem.
It might be a very
speculative problem. Yeah.
We haven't had any other submissions about where.
John?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, for this particular site with the glare on the end, I was wondering if this particular shelter could have no ends on it, because that's where the glare issue takes place here. I.e., is there some variation available in the construction briefing where?
Well, like not having the end or the sidewall.
Yeah.
I think it will lose a bit of its function.
It has a roof.
Protection from the winds and rains.
Well, one end,
Why don't we look at it if it ever becomes a problem, rather than try to waste time and solve a problem that doesn't exist here?
We're going round and round. I don't think it's.
Sorry.
It's also a pre-built shelter, I'm guessing, so
Yes.
not easy to knock out.
yeah,
But yeah.
they're
Yeah.
running them through
They are what they
a
are.
production line.
And Sunita?
Just final point, is that, could be a lighting which could resolve this glaring issue.
Well,
Do you think lighting could be something?
We don't
to look
think
at?
there's an issue, because the other one had.
We're just addressing the presenter's point,
the
right?
thing is that shelter that was shown and had these problems had sort of light in there because it was an advertised shelter. And we are not sure that having light inside that will solve the problem.
Thank you.
Right, no more questions on that one. So just quickly move to the one at 44 Hills Road, which is the other one that was spoken about today.
Yes.
This is the one where it's currently across the driveway.
Yes.
Wanting to move it away from the driveway.
So slide number 1, if you can go, please. Yeah, so this is the current condition. It's blocking the driveway. It's not just a simple interruption. When the bus stopped there, it just fully blocked that driveway. We had a power pole there, and which bus front door interfere with that, and bus rear door also will open over that cut down. And another thing that this bus stop is serving to Route 7. Route 7 will gonna have a frequency uplift end of these months, which we expect to have after a few months more patronage and more frequently bus stopping there.
Every 5 minutes.
Every 10
10 minutes.
Every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Coming from the Hallswell to Parkland
Yeah.
straight through. Yes.
So these are the problems that we considered and like proposed to relocate these bus stop 1 block back. In a slide number 2, we can see the same current condition from the side view. And about the concern raised, if we go to slide number 4. So this is the yellow box there is the bus stop if we approve that, if we do 1 click. So that will be a schematic of what could happen while that residence is on the flash median and we have the bus stopping at the stop and there is a queue and it was raised that it's unsafe. What we are saying that this is a situation that could happen and it's happening around the city, and what the user need to do is just staying there, and when the bus leave the bus stop and the queue is discharged, we will they will have space to move in the driveway. The other concern that was raised at our on-site meeting, but I think wasn't discussed today, was that if we do 1 click, about the maneuvering that resident is doing to get into his driveway, if you click. So what he described that it comes into the sidewalk, and if you do 1 more click, and then like reversing into his driveway, it was what we heard on the on-site meeting that we had. This is something that put a safety risk to pedestrian and cyclists. We can't like enforce him to do that, but we strongly advise him to not to do that. It's not safe. So that was for the raised concern with that. Deputies.
Can you tell me what page on our agenda the map is at? Attachments under separate cover. What page have we got?
It's a separate document.
The plan.
Yeah.
31.
And the agenda, I can't see it.
Nearest,
Head pages.
Was it near the start? I'm at the end.
oh, here it is, 12,
Emma, I'd like to ask a question on this picture, if I could at some point.
page 10.
10, okay. right,
Yeah,
I'm at
go
the
ahead,
end.
Elaine.
Oh, thank you. So is that one house where the trailer's going in?
Got it.
Is there another house down the back? Is it one property?
I think it should be one, right? What I remember was.
Because if he went in frontwards, he could just unhook the trailer in the ground. That's an
I can
alternative,
check
is what I'm
now.
trying to ask there.
It looks like one.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm checking the map now.
Yeah, it looks like the garage down.
Yes.
Right, are there any more questions on this particular one?
I think.
Okay, well, what we'll do now is, does anybody have any other questions about any of the other stops?
John?
Yes.
I've got one.
I can read your mind.
Oh,
Any first?
Beforehand out.
Yeah.
This is stops that haven't been discussed yet.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
How many?
One.
Just one, 202 Gloucester Street. And my question or my concern about that one, and there has been submissions on it, is the proximity to it's right in front of someone's window, effectively in front of their house. I do have a concern about that one.
To your house.
No, it's not. Under these circumstances. And I'll go to the.
What's the question, John?
Oh, my question is, so sorry, a moment, I'm just going to go to the optioneering document and find it on there.
The question is, can it not be by the window?
Can it be at the well, there was a submission from the existing location that was in support of it.
It's support of it moving.
And, yeah,
There was 2 submissions in support and 2 against for the town.
right.
The one who currently got it supported it moving because they don't.
They don't want it, yeah, fair enough, it's one of those yin and yang things. Does it have to be there? That's my question.
Well,
How
so
important is it?
these specific bus stop, even if we didn't have the shelter, I still would have come and propose these relocation. It's coming from an operational issue. So that was raised by bus operators. So actually those 3 cars that are parked before the current bus stop, they are always there. This is unlimited parking there. And they are like very close to the bus stop. So buses don't have enough space to swing it to the current bus stop. So with this relocation, we are providing that space and we are solving this issue. Also, the current bus stop, we don't have a space to install a shelter without interrupting an access point. Right, so these are the reasons that we are relocating.
I guess, again, the question supplementary to that is how close is the back of the bus stop to the residents?
What with the back of the bus stops, what is the shelter?
Sorry. Yeah, how close is the shelter right against the property?
Well, so their houses are like quite close, maybe 2 or 3 meters from the fences.
From the plan, it looks like it's cut up against. Yeah.
Yeah, so we place the shelter normally in a 300 millimeters from the fences to make sure that they have enough access to the fence maintenance and stuff like this. So if the question is about the shelter and fence distance, but if it's about the living room and the shelter, I think it should be like 2 or 3 meters. We haven't been able to like measure that.
Okay, Ellie,
My questions are general.
we might hold off on the general ones till after we've done.
That's fine.
Stop.
That's fine.
We've got Emma next.
Can you paint out the back of them?
Backup shelter. We can do some stickers that clear the glasses over there. If it's their concern, yes, we can do.
That's a good idea.
Mine's a
It
general
would be a
one.
privacy that would.
Yes, yeah. So if we approve this and we go and talk with them, if they need that sticker, we can do that.
Do you offer that to everybody who's putting one in front of their house?
We can offer this to,
It would be a board consideration.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we could say in this resolution to do that.
On this one.
yeah.
For any of them.
Is it called?
Correct.
Stickers on the shelter,
Yeah, like
on the back of the.
No, I think.
the cross.
They're different, like,
Yeah, make it okay, full translucent.
Emma, that was your question? Yep. Pauline?
Yeah, look, I'm sort of looking back to the 458 Barbados because of this one. So one question that we didn't touch on was the gentleman said that they would lose there.
Yes,
So can they retain some of the parking? This one's retaining the parking. It's swapping it
so-
over.
in this case, yeah, but on 458 Barbados Street, that space is actually right beside the Palestinian refugee, and it
Yes, but you
should
could
be.
probably retain one or two and still alleviate the pinch point issue.
We
Surely.
can, we can investigate that, but the best practice is not have anything parked 12 meters, I think, from the refugee,
And how long is the bus stop? Usually?
14 meters. No.
Well, you might get one.
But I can check that,
Mm.
like, yeah, we can investigate.
Well, can we just keep that in mind then when we come to that?
Is that for 458?
Yes. Depends what we decide to do on that one. Thank you.
There were some concerns raised about the one on 52.
What page is it, Emma?
Now, that's where the bus shelter is proposed to be right hard up against the business building, and there were concerns about that one. So again, we could offer that stickers that would alleviate those privacy concerns. And the main reason I got from shifting this, one of the main reasons was because of the sump there. Is that correct? The buses were damaging.
So which one we are talking about? 442?
442, sorry.
Yes. The main reason could be the significant like business driveway before and after the bus stop. So if it was like a private house or something, we could say that the likelihood of interruption between the people exiting and entering with the buses being there is low number. But here we are talking about the like entrance and exit from the significant parking spaces. So that's the main problem there. About that privacy, actually the windows that they have, the glasses that they have is a black color. It's if you have seen those business. So I don't think that having we either not like blocking them because we have like glasses, and also if we add those stickers, it's not that much like help. It's already the like glasses are black.
Yeah. Right, any more questions on specific stop shelters?
No, but I'm happy to move all the non-controversial ones if that's of any use to.
Which ones?
By that, I
What
I defined as all of them apart from 458 Barbados, 44 Hills, 202 Gloucester, if you want to vote on that, John, and 33 Rollston. So all but 4.
Okay, do we have a seconder for those ones? Maybe you have your hand up first. Okay, so we might do those ones as a block first. Do that much.
Oh, sorry, who?
So it was Jake and Emma.
I'll try it out later.
Yeah.
So recommendations on all.
But we actually will, so we don't do only one, we'll do one back. So is there anybody happy to move any of those other ones, the other 4? Oh, thank you very much. I think that was okay.
I mean, I am.
Wait, hang on.
Should we?
Just before we go any further, Ali did have just a
Yeah.
question.
Okay, sorry.
A couple of general ones. Firstly, just looking at the consultation responses, there were emails sent to 65 stakeholders, and you've listed them. Thank you for all of that information. 105 residents and absentee owners. And then you got 20 submissions. Happy with that?
It's tricky to compare across other projects, and that's because for something like this, we know that people are all for PT improvements, and when we put shelters outside people's houses, it's kind of a different process. People are likely to object and come and speak to the board. So I can't really compare across projects. I do know that we've consulted on 54 bus stop upgrades around the city, 25 in your area. It's cool to see that we've got some supportive submissions as part of this process, because we're targeting impacted residents as part of this.
That's what I was going to ask you.
It's a legislative process when we put shelters outside of people's properties that
Yeah, and I appreciate you have to address and tick the legislation box.
Yeah.
But there's a much bigger conversation that surely needs to be had with schools, with those who use the routes. Because the whole point of a bus route is you want to put shelters on well-used bus routes, right?
Correct.
So even though it might not be a house, it might be a school. So that's why I'm asking the question, really.
So we have spoken to the likes of Orion in terms of things like infrastructure on the roads. Like, we're really thinking about who can have influence on a project like this within the project scope. We've had to be quite careful about not going wider, because we often get, yes, absolutely, all supportive of the public transport upgrades until we build it outside someone's house and it becomes a different conversation. So we have done consultations in the past about, even as part of the Climate Emergency Response Fund, when we had funding for the slightly different scope, which was across the city, we got 30 submissions and support around the city going to all these schools and, wider stakeholders. But it's a totally different conversation when it's on an individual plan level. And that's why we've been really, really targeted with impact, if that makes sense. But I know what you're talking about.
It kind of doesn't, because sure, you've got to speak to the homeowners and so forth. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But I also think that it needs to be broader than that. And if you can get buy-in and support from schools and churches and malls and things like that, that's what's going to feed into this in a positive way. So it was really a question and a comment on that. You mentioned that staff have not found any evidence that a bus stop or shelter beside a property reduces in the value of the property. Yeah, what's the evidence there, or where did you find that out?
Well, we normally receive tickets and community requests or complaints about the effects that a bus stop might have on the property.
Did you talk to a real estate agent or valuer?
No.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to check that as well.
Yeah.
The storage costs, I've already raised that as an issue. Gobsmacked at that. And I think that, with all due respect, that is a red herring and totally unnecessary unless you can back it up with some information. The ongoing maintenance costs on that, does that include graffiti and vandalism repairs, the 5,500 per year as maintenance costs? Does that cover repair?
It includes the repair, but the graffiti is normally handled by a separate team. So I think it's a repair like the broken glasses or.
So the $5,500 doesn't include any additional costs from damage from vandalism, or it does? Sorry.
No, it does.
It does. Great. Okay. And also, can advertisers secure space on the bus stops? There's clearly an ongoing OPEX here. Do we recoup that in any way by looking at advertising?
Well, yes, we are working on a project including the advertising shelters. At the moment, what we have is a working group on renewing the current contract that the council has with our advertising shelter provider.
I'll just jump in and just make it a bit simpler. Yeah. All of these shelters that are going in, do they have advertising on them?
No.
Thank you.
Pauline.
Thank you. Look, I'd like to move 33 Rolleston, 44 Hills Road and 202 Gloucester Street, and signal an amendment for 458 Barbados. Please.
I'll second moving of those three as well.
What's the amendment?
Do you want me to read my amendment? Please get a seconder.
Hold on.
Well, I'll just do
We're
this.
still on questions.
Yeah, but I'm doing this.
Yeah. Sorry, if you just stay for.
Yeah, because we're not about just get the questions done first.
No, Pauline's already kind of moving.
I'll just read the amendment for 458 that to leave the 458 bus stop where it is and staff investigate an alternate site for a shelter, with the board signalling a need for a shelter at BP Village. It doesn't mean that we'll hit it, but it's just letting you know.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that?
Sorry, can I just ask process there? I'm not keen to vote positively for those 4 that you are moving, but I am support of the amendment.
We'll probably put them
We'll do that
separately.
separately.
Okay,
Yeah, so
fine.
So there were 3 that Pauline moved.
Yep, thanks.
Thanks, Jake, seconded.
The Hills, Gloucester and Rolleston.
Yeah.
And then the amendment for 458 Barbados.
And all the rest of them I've
And
moved,
Jake's already moved all the rest of them.
non-controversial, controversial
And
and amendment.
so process-wise, I think you put the amendment first.
Yes.
Well, hasn't been moved yet, so it's not technically.
Well, do we have a
Just
seconder?
True. It is.
Oh, true, you're,
substantive.
yeah, Emma. Okay,
Can I ask Pauline a question just for clarity on that amendment?
yep,
So 458 is the one where we've got the pinch point.
Yes.
So you've asked the staff to investigate alternate site to place the shelter,
Not there though.
Completely different.
completely separate. Would you consider amending this amendment to ask staff to investigate the options to review the pinch point?
I think
No,
it's
They're gonna
pretty
happen
sure.
anyway.
It can happen anyway.
Yeah, it has to happen.
Okay. Thank you.
It hasn't been brought
But I
to their
did see that.
attention.
Okay.
yeah, we'll just hold on, pause for a second, while Mark just gets that wording for Pauline's. Now substantive, not amendment.
Yes.
Request staff to investigate an alternative site for
A shelter,
a shelter.
comma, with the board signalling a need for a shelter at the BP Edgeware Village.
Yeah. but
BP
that's
on
not
Cranford Street.
Yeah, that's
One,
definitive.
Yeah, there's only one, isn't there?
Yeah, they probably won't go there, but go on to one of their ones on their list, but it will rain.
so do we have a seconder for that one?
You must have-
You must see it, yes, you did.
Can I check with staff, if we don't have 10 and 11 as they were, but we just have that one sentence, has that got enough detail in it to work standing alone under that heading? I think it will, because it wipes out what was going to be approved for that bus stop, doesn't it?
Yeah, A to D and null and void.
Yeah, it leaves the bus stop where it was, and it doesn't put the shelter in, it just substitutes that one.
Are you happy with that? You can work with that resolution?
Yeah.
Can I
Yes,
just check one thing regarding the 202 Gloucester Street? I think staff had signalled the board could make a request to staff to consider the privacy sticker. I think that, would you be happy as mover, Pauline, to add that?
Yep, thank
okay,
you.
find that one.
So,
So we just add a wee thing to that one too.
Yeah, just a reminder for board members that these ones in the central city, we are just making recommendations and we council.
Was it the parking subcommittee?
Yeah, I was gonna.
Plan A area, won't have any trouble. Get us through there at all.
I think there is not.
It'd be something like request staff investigate.
Privacy.
That's what transport would like.
Brad wants to have deputation.
Oh, yeah, maybe request staff have a conversation with the residents around, because only if they want.
Yeah.
With the immediately affected resident.
Yeah.
Is that with the?
To mitigate privacy
trees?
issue.
Oh,
No, that's the
I've got
Gloucester
privacy.
one.
Yeah.
That's good.
Affected resident. To mitigate the privacy.
Of the other ones, so that it, property that we didn't, hasn't been raised.
It's a BE, something to retrieve.
Yeah.
Thanks, Simon, for reminding me.
Yes.
does it need to say what the sticker or just to mitigate, then staff will pick it up from there, that you know what that means to the sticker option.
Well, to us, it's clear like that we have different options, like having hashed glasses or put like having a stickers that.
Okay, and you could discuss that with.
Yes, we can do and like provide those.
What about some nice fusion?
But that is specific location that we propose the shelter, they already have plants and vegetables like behind that. so-
Lazy boy.
Right, but Victoria had a question.
Yeah, a general question. Of the bus shelters that we are putting in, how many, what is it? Is it 25?
We are working on 24,
Okay.
23 of them are in.
Okay, so of the 23 that we are working on, how many of those are being moved and how many shelters are being placed exactly where the bus stop already is, please?
Well, we have,
Do the analysis.
we have 6 bus stop that's been moved.
Okay,
19 bus stop, we have just shelter at the.
thank you. At the place where the bus stop already is.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Right, any more questions?
Oh,
John?
I have one for you, Madam Chair. Can I move an amendment to the amendment that 44 Hills Road receive the same amendment as Barbados Street?
The 44 doesn't have an amendment. It's just a substantive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, so just an amendment.
Sorry, I want to bring it into the amendment. Bring it in.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Is it make an amendment? to the
Which one is
substantive?
that, John, please?
Sorry.
Which one is that?
44 Hills.
So you're,
44 Hills Road.
you're proposing that we leave it
Yes,
and then
as is.
investigate an alternative site
investigate
for the
it.
shelter.
So
Yeah,
Pauline is
exactly.
the mover of that one. I'm the seconder, happy to incorporate that in.
Okay. 44, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Copy it.
different.
That means not putting a shelter at that site.
Yeah,
Yeah, there are a lot of submissions.
it's an amendment if mine fails. It's an amendment.
And on what basis?
I thought we were just talking about the film.
Against
Oh.
the shelter on what basis?
Against the shelter on what basis? That was a significant
shelter.
number of fairly decent
Leave it where it is.
submissions
Oh,
against it.
submission.
The whole neighbourhood's against it.
That wasn't just the sticker that you wanted, John, that was the actual same, it's,
Exactly
not
the same
sorry.
thing. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
not having it and thinking,
Not happy to
applying it to another
incorporation.
location.
No.
You, no,
No, not happy to
No.
incorporate.
okay, so you can propose a,
That is an amendment.
Amendment.
but they have to accept it.
No, we can't, it's a direct opposite to mine, so it's an
Yeah.
amendment.
Well, no, is it though?
But then it only happens if yours fails.
Yeah.
That's right.
We vote on John's one if yours fails.
Okay.
So, yeah, okay, that's what I've done. Do you have a seconder for your foreshadowed amendment, John?
I don't know that you.
We can't discuss that.
Well, if yours fails, this happens.
It's just that his is a direct opposite. I'm not sure it is actually a foreshadowed, nor is it an amendment. It's actually just voting
So
against
you-
the resolution.
If it fails, you could revisit with John's option. That would be,
And table it afresh. Yeah. It's not an amendment and it's not foreshadowed.
I have a fine line really, but I would call it an amendment.
I'm pretty confused, to be honest.
Okay, we'll wait and see. If
Draw me
these
a diagram,
fails,
draw me a diagram, yeah.
if these fails, then we can discuss.
No, it is an amendment because mine is just the substantive, but I moved it fails, Lee, out of it.
No, but Jake, as Jake said, it's the direct opposite.
It's just voting against the thing. It's not an amendment.
Well, you
It's,
should
no,
have
it's
to
not
vote.
taking out 458. It's not, I agree with everything else in the amendment, but want to add in number 44 Hills.
Yeah, I know, but I've already moved it.
You've moved it, yeah,
So just vote. against it.
Yeah,
all right.
because they don't
Oh.
accept it, theirs doesn't change.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
But then what John wants is another vote or a vote to be held on a different.
Separately.
But if theirs fails, that will happen anyway. That one won't
There's
be
no
done
bus-
and another
bus
site will be looked at.
That's right, you're right, Jake.
What was
But
the
if
wording
there's
of
parts-
yours? What was the wording of what you wanted?
He just wants no bus stop there.
No, there was more to
Oh,
it.
No bus stop or
No
no?
train,
No change.
no shelter.
No change.
No shelter.
Oh, right.
Happen if that fails.
Yeah,
It
right.
is.
Yeah, do you get that? So what you're saying is no different to if it fails, because nothing will happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Unless you're also wanting some film, in which case we could work that in.
right,
But we can't work out no shelter, because that's just
That's
losing
voting
the vote.
against.
okay.
But do you want the privacy issue film on there? Is it privacy issue on
That
45?
was brought up in the submission, so if you're happy, Pauline and Jake, to add the privacy,
Privacy.
that one as well.
Privacy.
Yes.
44,
Yeah.
that was
Thank you.
If it goes ahead, yeah.
certainly in the submissions,
Yeah, because it was brought up about the lower fence height at that address. Yeah.
yes.
Are we in debate?
Just checking we are done with questions now? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much
guys.
for your work on that.
Oh, just
Big project. Right. Do people, we obviously, John, you want to put that one separately? yours, that Hills Road one,
Yes.
you want it separate?
Yes.
Wait for
I don't know.
Ellie.
Oh,
Well, while she's coming, the request to have a conversation about mitigating the privacy issue, that can be incorporated in. That's no worries whatsoever.
Yeah, we'll put that in for 44 Hills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Sorry, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so now we will move on to debate. So Pauline?
Yeah, look, they're always controversial, bus shelters. It'd be lovely if we could put bus shelters on every bus stop, but we only have a certain budget. I think staff have done a good job allocating these to the most appropriate bus stops. We've got to be careful with our language. We use bus stops and bus shelters here. Look, the reason I think that I have signalled to not do the shelter on 458 Barbados Street, it's not about just bowing to one or two residents, because you often have people saying, I don't want this outside my house. But I just think that looking at it's very sheltered from the easterly, it's got a lot of trees around it. And I don't think it's really one of the most urgent ones at all. And so I also think that if we got a chance to get one at the VP, it would be helpful, but it's not a guarantee. So I think that's a reasonably sheltered stop anyway. It is going to be a highly frequent route as well. So there may be a better place for the shelter in light of that information that's come through. And so the other ones for me were all pretty straightforward, and it's great to see the privacy issue addressed as well. So yeah, I'm just explaining why I've decided to suggest that we don't do Barbados Street right now.
Thanks, Pauline. Jake?
Thank you. I'll be supporting actually all but 458 Barbados, which I'll abstain on. I can see the logic. I think if we make a decision that puts in all these bus stops bar one, that's pretty good. And knowing that the bus stop will go elsewhere, that elsewhere won't be as high of a priority. But given the hairy issues with this one stop and the ward councillor's preference against it, I'm happy to abstain and know that if that motion doesn't carry, the bus stop will still go to a good, almost as good use somewhere else. So with that, happy to encourage colleagues to support putting in great new PT infrastructure for low cost.
Any other debate? Victoria?
Yeah, thanks. I'm a regular bus user, so I absolutely welcome more infrastructure in the form of these bus shelters, and the more the merrier in many respects. But that said, I appreciate that they are and can be controversial, and they can have an impact on the perceived amenity of an individual's home. That's a real issue for some of those residents, and there isn't a magic bullet. When we look at the numbers, and I asked that question directly for that very reason, 19 out of 24 of these bus shelters that are going in at existing bus stops. So there's already people gathering, there's already the bus stopping, so there's no significant change. And in those respects, it is definitely an improvement. And I'm really pleased that we've got the options to address the privacy issue, and we talked about that. In relation to 458, I think it just highlighted to me the complexities of some of the issues that have been at play, and the conversation at the forefront was really about the pinch point, and that is what the issue was there. And so, sometimes you can solve one problem but create another. So I think it would be incumbent on us to pick up that pinch point and that safety issue somewhere else. And that's again why we asked the question, what came first, the bus stop or the crossing point, because that just seemed ridiculous and it should be picked up at that time. So thank you for the amendment, Pauline, in relation to 458. And I think if we can approve all of these bar the one, then actually we've made some really good progress today, because it's a significant improvement on the infrastructure of the bus stops. Really happy to support it.
Yes, I agree with the community need to develop the public transport network, and indeed the more the merrier in terms of bus shelters. However, I know there's an eminent domain sort of a thing here, and we can just take to these sites, but I think we've got to be very cognizant of where we're putting these shelters in terms of neighbourhoods or residences that, for good reasons, they've advised it, oppose them. And for that reason, I support the amendment with regard to 458 Barbados. Yes, 44 Hills Road, I argue that the shelter can get a shelter, but at the existing stop, because it will fit there and the driveway issue exists anyway, regardless of whether there's a shelter there or just the bus stop there. That is already the place. I know there's going to be a higher frequency of buses, but that already is in place. So my view of number 44 Hills Road is do install a shelter, slightly different from what I foreshadowed before, but do so at the existing stop. I support the idea of looking into the privacy issue at 202 Gloucester, and the conversation we've had about Rolleston, I'm happy with that also. So in summary, it's kind of like a no to Barbados Street, yes to Rolleston Ave, yes, but where the stop is to 44 Hills, and check out the privacy on 202 Gloucester. And I'm in favour of all of the others that are non-controversial.
Thanks, John. Anyone else? Much. Okay, and that instance we'll put all except 44 Hills Road.
And your amendment, Pauline.
Sorry.
No.
So the Jake moved and Emma Woodell seconded all except 44 Hills, 202 Gloucester, 458 Barbados, and 33E Rolleston. Do you want to do it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So put those ones, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried.
So that means Pauline has moved Hills, Gloucester and Rolleston.
Put Hills separate. Did you want to do
I'll do Gloucester and Rolleston.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, put those two, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. And then finally, Hills.
two more? 44
Hills
put
Road.
separate with same mover and seconder, Pauline and Jake moved.
Jake. Which one are we
44.
44 Hills Road.
So doing that separate.
So all those in favour?
Aye.
Can I abstain on that, because I lost the thread of the conversation a little bit, I got confused, so I'm just
Okay,
going to
so
abstain.
Victoria's abstaining and against?
John.
Yes.
John.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, and you want that noted, John?
Yes,
Yep.
please.
Cool, so that is carried. And then finally, 58 Barbados.
Yeah, the change there.
The-
amendment.
Just
the
highlight
amendment.
and the
Yep.
rest crossed out.
And that has been moved by Pauline and seconded by Emma.
And that's can you just repeat what it is, please? What is it? What's
So
the amendment?
request staff investigate an alternative site for a shelter with the board signalling a need for a shelter at VP on Cranford Street.
So that's.
So no shelter at 458 Barbados. So we'll put that in motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That is carried.
Oh, Jacob's staying.
Jacob Station.
What's that noted?
Yes,
Oh,
please.
that's a long item.
Right, done.
Don't do that
Good
again.
effort. Thank you very much.
Coming next meeting with another 25.
And we'll now jump to item 10, which is the Westminster Street proposed parking restriction change. Right, and then we'll come back to Sally Ann.
Understand it now.
All right, good evening, board and the chair. Yeah, thank you. So this report is to address Grace's request for more or longer parking around the buildings. So she raised it to us during the public consultation for the bus line project last year. So we had a look at them back to Grace. We had some discussion. They mentioned that it's not feasible to provide any more parking on Cranford Street on her side. The reason is that her shop is on the east side of Cranford Street, just 10 meters north of the intersection. So on the Cranford Street north approach, they are 65 meters, no stopping yellow lines. So our Cranford Street north approach is one lane, diverged into two lanes approaching the intersection. So according to the design guidance, it needs 65 meters diverging taper for this location. So that means we cannot put in any more parking. So we had a discussion with Grace. We said it's not feasible to put any more parking on Cranford Street on her side. But alternatively, we can have a look whether Westminster Street north side, the current P30 can be changed to P60. So we went to talk with all the business owners and they're kind of supportive. So one with two business owners, they totally support change to P60. And one owner, she's kind of supportive, but she's got concern and people may park longer than P60. So that's our proposal, is to change the existing P30 to P60. And other than that, we had an investigation for the existing parking around the intersection, which is mentioned in item 4.6. So we're saying like a 150 meters walking distance. That's about 2 minutes, 5 seconds. So they are like 32 unrestricted parking around the intersection. And the total number comes to 54. So we understand currently there's some like house developing nearby, so maybe some trainees they park there, so maybe put some pressure, but that's temporary. We believe in longer term it should be generally okay, but have to be. We have to say it's not directly outside of Grace Fields. It's about 2 minutes walking nearby. Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Victoria has a question.
Two things.
Yeah.
The yellow lines, I'm on page 56 of our agenda. If we can just get that map up. The yellow lines that are currently there with the current road layout.
Yes.
How long has it been like that?
It's been there since the bus lane trial. It's early 2021.
And can you, at the very beginning, you explained why the west side of the street is different to the east, the northbound and the southbound. Can you repeat that, please? Because you went too fast and I couldn't understand it. Can you explain why one side has the ability to have parking and the other side has yellow lines? Can you just explain the differentiation, please, again, because I missed it?
On the approaching side is a north approach. There's one lane, diverging into 2 lanes.
So if we look at our map, so you come through the intersection as you're coming up Cranbrook, and you come
back coming up.
Coming from the north.
No, going north.
No, going north, coming from this end.
Yeah.
So you've got two coming into one.
Yeah. Actually, it's one coming to one. Yeah. The left lane.
Depends whether the bus.
Yeah. Bus operation hours. Yeah, it's 1 to 1.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's 1 to 2.
Is it a clear way?
Yeah, bus.
Yeah.
Okay, and so outside the shop and her premises, we've got one lane. And then is that a bicycle lane or a bus lane, or what is it?
It's a traffic lane.
It's a traffic lane, 2 traffic lanes.
A very controversial.
It's quite skinny, but it is a whole lane.
And it's also a bus lane.
Yeah, it's also a bus lane.
It's turning and straight
It's
through.
straight through and turning, isn't it?
Yeah, here and left turn.
I got confused by that.
Yeah.
So it's not the right.
It's not just cycle lane, isn't it?
No.
Yeah, so those are different, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, and so it's the current legislative settings and the policy settings that don't permit it.
That's correct. Yeah, the guidance asks for 65 meters taper. Ideally,
Guidelines.
design menu. Ideally, we should also have like a straight part, but we don't have. Because we don't have enough space, otherwise we have to remove more parking, so.
Thank you.
John.
Hey, David. You've landed on P60.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's optimal. I just feel that P90 or maybe not 120, but P90 feels about right for this area. People are either buying souvlaki's or chippies and so they're plenty quick, but for a hairdo or beauty treatment.
We don't do P90, right? Yeah.
You don't?
No, it's rounded to 60, 120, something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
And also we ask the business owners that prefer, let's say, their customers normally prefer to stay 30 to 50 minutes. That's normally the other business, yeah.
Yes, someone you did talk to though, you know, have liked it to be longer, right?
But normally no longer than 60.
Right.
Even the cafe, we ask them whether you prefer one P120, and they say no, they prefer P60.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the modal.
The current business on Westminster Street.
Okay, okay, thank
They
you.
won't help Parwinder anyway.
He wants, because of the distance.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Emma.
Okay, so a very controversial corner and there's work going on to try and improve the safety of it. Why don't we just have one lane going straight through?
Yeah, that will probably make the congestion even worse on Cranford Street.
What's that, sorry?
Maybe make a delay even longer on Cranford Street.
That's the problem.
That's not, how to say, for the notice of requirement, we have to improve the operation of Cranford Street. Yeah.
So now the top end of Cranford Street, is that back in council hands yet? Above Innes?
North of Innes.
North of Innes, yes.
It's in council hands, so it's been passed over.
Yes.
It'll be great to hear a bit more about that next time we see you. Okay, but it still is a possibility that we could take it back to one lane as part of that whole improving that intersection.
Well, that probably not accordance with notice of requirement conditions. Because
But that's notice of requirements up in 10 years, is it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great, thank you.
Right, any further questions? No, I'm happy to move this resolution here. Give a second, Pauline. Debate. No, fine.
Yeah, I just want to thank Grace for coming in and talking to us. I think it's unfortunate situation you find yourself in, but having heard from staff, I really feel that our hands are tied on this. I appreciate Emma's efforts to try and put it back to one lane and perhaps put some parking in.
We're trying.
Now's not the time to have that conversation. I'm unable to support Grace on this, but I really feel that we're between a rock and a hard place. And I'll be supporting it. And I think the moves that we've got in relation to the 60 are sensible.
Yeah, look, I'd just like to echo those thoughts as well. We'd love to try and help there, and particularly with the elderly trying to get places. I know it's difficult, but we can't. There's nothing we can do there. We're bound, and don't know if we can think of any other way to help those people to access that business. We'll be thinking hard, but I'm really sorry that we can't help. But hopefully the P60 will help you too. So I'd like to thank staff for coming up with a solution.
Emma and Kelly.
Yes, it is unfortunate that we can't change the parking layout on Cranford Street. We didn't talk about the traffic lights though. And it is a question, actually.
Oh, we're in debate now.
I know.
We're done with questions.
It's about the timing of the lights. Do we have that special timing of the lights at those intersections?
That's something we can talk about offline. That's not relevant to this report. And as I said, we're in debate. Anything else?
No, that's it. I just wanted to help Grace. And if we do have that there and she doesn't know about it, it would be good to tell her if there's a way of extending the crossing time for her clients.
Ellie.
My apologies for having to duck out. I understand that there are issues with not being able to put parks in there, and I do understand that's what staff are saying. I find that really hard to accept looking at the way the road works and the video that I've taken and watching the way the traffic works down there. I think one of the issues, we've already got 2 shops that are empty there, so we've lost 2 businesses. We potentially could be losing another one. We have very successful businesses with Willow there and with Origin. And, you know, I'm really pleased to see people like Grace and other business people taking the risk to set up along there. There's the barbers now, and that's growing in business as well. And I think we should be doing absolutely everything we can do to help these businesses survive and provide services for the residents who live in the area. You know, even a loading zone or somewhere where the elderly could be dropped by their taxis. But there must be a way to sort this so that we can actually show that we can do and not can't do. So I'm really disappointed that there hasn't been a more positive outcome.
I would just like to add that I believe staff have done what they can to help businesses in this situation, and I'm pleased that pretty much all of them are supportive of the time limit. I would just like to remind board members that we've used time and time again over the duration of the dent thing, that the problem with Cranford Street being so congested is because the intersections can't handle the amount of traffic going down there. And now we've got people suggesting that we should take one lane out, which is going to make that worse. So I don't quite understand that reasoning. But yeah, I'm supportive of the staff today. Anyone else? No? Okay, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Ellie, want that noted?
Yes, thanks.
That is carried. Thanks, David. We will now jump back to item 8, Bishop Street. Sorry about the wait, Ellie Ann. So you want to speak to the report or take it as
we received a request from a resident on Bishop Street, due to its proximity to town, asking if we could look at providing some restrictions and help alleviate some of the parking problems. I do have some report. Any questions?
Questions? Pauline?
Yeah, I noticed in the report, someone suggested why don't we A, do both sides of the street restrictions, and B, do the whole street. What did you think about that?
So the parking policy recommendation is 25% of the street for this sort of thing. We wouldn't go in hard.
No, but could you have done 25% but spread it over the whole street?
No, you mean actually have little zones? The parking enforcement don't like little blocks, they prefer it in one block because it's much easier for them to enforce.
Right, thank you. I think that was the only, that was the question. Yep, thank you.
Victoria?
Thank you. Mine's a general question on page 26 of our agenda at 4.8. The last paragraph, council will consider if residential parking permit exemption areas should be included in parking policies when the next review. It goes on to say we don't currently have a date for when this will be completed. Surely we have a schedule of what policies are coming up and when they're going to be reviewed. Is there any indication of when that one's in the pipeline?
No, a member of our staff, Sahan, has been dealing with the policy, members of staff that have been looking into that. There's been quite a lot of discussion and meetings, but still at the moment, there's no date. It's making our lives quite difficult as traffic ops, because in this situation, it would be good to be able to put the time restriction in, but then be able to allow residents to be exempt to it. So, because the idea of this is to stop commuters parking there. So, no, we just keep being told that it's too hard.
So is that something that elected members could influence if a notice of motion came to our table to bring forward a policy review? I was asking my colleagues.
When did we do it? It wasn't that long ago, was it? We did it?
When was it last reviewed? Parking policy?
Might have been. Were you around when we did it, Jade?
Barely, yeah, but I do think I
It could
remember
be
it.
5 years.
Well, maybe that's something that we could follow up.
Or at least we talk
something
about
that we could
CBD
note.
parking policy.
Yeah, like I think it's worth noting, because if it's an issue and we're trying to encourage people to come and live in the centre of our city, and it is an issue that we're hearing time and time again. Yeah, I'd be really quite like to note that, please, if we can.
Somewhere that the board would like to see that review of the.
We'd like to know the timeline of when it's reviewed.
Permits all over New Zealand.
I had one in Dunedin when I was living there.
When was
Yeah,
that?
they've got a
30
good
years ago.
scheme in Wellington as well, works in the.
We could just note that the board would like to see the timeline for the review of the parking
Bring them in
policy.
and ask them for a copy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you want to note especially around residence exemptions?
I think that has to be the specific thing, yeah.
Policy.
Pertaining particularly to resident permits and a policy relating to that.
Right, we had,
So has this ignited any correspondence from streets on either side?
No, we don't tend to get many requests for this sort of thing on suburban streets. Well, residential suburban streets. I'm not really sure why. I mean, we're pretty reactive due to,
This is really
staffing and resources. So we look at these requests on a reactive basis when they come in, but no, as yet, I think we had some feedback in the correspondence that asked in consultation, asked if we were going to look at it on a wider scale, but it's just a resourcing issue. So yeah, we look at it when we're asked to do so by the residents.
I think so. Because it could have a spill-on effect.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it will have a.
Yeah.
You know, like they're not parking on Bishop Street, so they'll park on
Manchester
or.
Yeah.
And they're all fairly full already.
I think we're just trying to manage the available road space we've got the best way we can. I mean, there's more people moving into the area. We can't make any more parking, so it's just trying to make what the space we've got work the best we can for everybody.
I'm just more thinking about our spending and our money and why aren't we doing this to all of the streets along there at the same time?
That would be, I mean, just the consultation side of that would be enormous.
Okay.
Ellie.
Thank you. Further to what Vic was talking about, which is what was glaringly obvious to me reading that, was about the residents' parking policy. How is it that we do have some resident parking permit areas in Christchurch?
Grandfathering.
They're historic ones that have been honoured. So I'm not sure when they went in. It was years ago, and it tended to be for the smaller cottages that have got no parking whatsoever. But when the old policy was done, I think it was in 2018, they honoured the ones that were existing.
So subsequent to that, my question would be, how is that managed if what's being sort of suggested in the report is that it's too difficult to implement, we don't know what cost to apply, so how is that working if the
That's managed by the parking operations team, so.
You wouldn't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, I know they issue the permits and sort out the revenue.
Right.
I don't know how that fits in with how new.
Okay.
There's not a lot of them. I've only ever had one email about the subject.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I just wonder whether if it works there, could it be replicated would be the obvious question, right? But it's not your area. Yeah, no, that's fine. I think. Yeah.
John?
Well, thank you. My question is again on time length optimization, and we've landed on P120 here. I'm sorry if it's included in the report. It's been quite a while since I read that one, but I know now that it's hourly increments, and I feel like let's say P180 or even P240
They're just not time limits that parking enforcement like.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's what I read. Yeah.
It's difficult to keep track of it because officers have got the turnover of officers.
Yeah.
They just find it difficult to manage.
So you could do the restriction, but it's difficult getting it enforced.
Yeah, it's getting it actually, it's having the staff on the street to actually enforce it.
Yeah, logistical issue. It's a pity because that would seem to serve the residents slightly better.
Yeah.
It gets more into, the overlap of start and the end of working days, but it's sufficient to put off commuters from parking there because if they're going for an 8-hour job, then P240s or P180 is going to do the trick.
Yeah.
But it isn't, enforcement logistics.
P120 is the longest time frame that we use.
Okay.
Thank you. Just very quickly, I'm noticing that around the the Canterbury Rugby Union around Melbourne and gossip there, that's getting really chocker with people from the union parking in the suburban streets. And what councillor said is that if you, or when you put timed parking somewhere, it just moves cars elsewhere. So there's timed parking on Melbourne, they're now moving into Gossip. There was some reference in the report on that. Could you just talk to that for a minute, please, on what you're expecting?
I mean, I think it's, yeah, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, if you put restrictions, then it is just gonna push it further up the street.
And do you think it might fill up the rest of the street though?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
So it's just moving it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Any more questions? No. Thank you, Sally. Do we have a mover and a seconder? John? Seconder? Anita? Okay, any debate? Ali?
Yeah, I just want to say that, you know, when you ask council for the number of new dwellings that are going in, particularly in the inner ward, and I know it's happening in Central a lot as well, and some of those just don't have car parks, that I'm really pleased to see that it's been noted that we're going to ask for a definitive guide on when the review of the parking policy is going to be, because I think that that has got to be looked at. I'm surprised it hasn't, that we're not staying ahead of it, actually looking at how many new dwellings are going into our city. So I am going to support this today, but it's a band-aid, and I think we need to, as soon as possible, get into the wider review so that we can start future-proofing our streets, essential.
Anyone else? Emma?
I agree with you. Al.
Oh my God.
You thought you will never.
Right, anyone else? No, okay, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Yeah, that is carried. Thank you, Sally Ann. Got item 11, discretionary response fund application, the Avon Recyclable Network for Matari loan. Questions for Trevor on this one? Alex.
Could you just verbalise what was asked via email so we've got it on the record, please, with regards to it not being the full amount?
I would have recommended the full amount, but with the new system I was working on, it wouldn't let me recommend the equal amount.
So it's short by $50.
That's why I was going to do it by $1, but that was
Are you going to chuck it in, Trev?
spark information and suggest where it could come.
Thanks, Trev. Yep. I just say that because I want to suggest that we add the $50.
So, Sunita, would you be happy to move 4,300?
Yes, please.
We have a seconder for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Victoria, hand up first. Any debate? No, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye. Thank you.
That is carried. Thank you. And area report.
Any questions about the magnificently coloured area report?
Photos not this time.
Oh, I know. It seems to be
Great photos.
seems to be getting longer and longer.
Some of those stock footage, I think. Some stock images there. The hat.
So no questions?
Hang on.
No, that's great.
So can I ask a question about the meet in the middle that's on the 20th of April? Do you know about it? Meeting, it's on page 67.
Meeting in the middle. Oh,
meet in the middle. It's a walk cycle road. You start from Brighton and meet in Kerrs Reach, and then you start from the city end. Doesn't matter. Yeah. I just wondered where this was starting, because it looked like it's saying Revolution Eco Hub. Maybe we could just get some more information about that, please, sometime.
As to where the middle is.
Yeah, because it used to be at Kerrs Reach, the rowing centre, but
No, it's at the
Revolution.
At the Richmond Community Garden.
Yeah. Yeah, well, see, that's changed.
No, I thought it was at the what's that thing called?
It's at Revolution Hub.
The landing, Darlington.
The landing.
Yeah, it has been in the past. That's what Pauline's.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Kerrs Reach, yeah. So I'm just wondering, anyway, if you can flick something out.
It's at Revolution Hub.
Yeah, it's at Revolution.
Yeah.
It's a great event. It's normally really big. And just like to comment positively on that 3.5 on page 70 with the 2 seats being made for St Paul's memorial seats. Aren't they fantastic? from the men's shed. It's brilliant. So, yeah, great report, thank you. Very exciting. I think we've got the best ward in the city.
Sport area.
I do like it when you're in the chair when we come up to the event, we're a big fan for you.
Excellent chairing, right?
Any other questions? Right, is someone happy to move this report? Oh. Simon and I think John.
Everyone wants to move it. Good.
Okay, so we'll put that motion, all in favour. Against. That is carried. Finally, our elected members information exchange.
Sorry, can I ask you something before you go?
Sure.
Sorry, I can't remember your name.
Jason.
Jason, sorry, Jason. We saw there was a report about the pickleball. Did anyone see that?
Yeah,
About
yeah.
pickleball?
Yeah.
We have Edgware Park,
Yes.
Edgware Bowling Green, and we also have 2 unused courts at St Albans Tennis Club.
In Dover Street.
And Dover Street.
Is there a possibility?
Can we, yeah. Can we invite them, like, who's responsible and who gets to say yes or no about the tennis club use by them? Is it, because it's council land, yeah?
Yeah, council land, but I mentioned the club would have to have a say in that as well.
Oh, of course, they'd have a say,
But
but
the question is, could staff work with the Pickleball Association and look for potential venues in
well, I think the council already are, but I just want to ensure that those 2 are put
Yes.
in the picture.
Yeah.
And in particular, the Edgware Bowling Green. Because yes, it would cost a bit more to get them up and running there, because they'd have to put the courts down on the area of the board. Or they could have a temporary one at St Albans, they could move in there like that, because they're not using them, it's sitting there empty. And then the more permanent home could fill that space at on the bowling green.
Or they might just
and that
really
would be
nicely at
awesome.
Dover Street for everyone.
Well,
Because they do
might.
use tennis courts.
Well, I'll make sure
Yeah.
that it's got
But yeah, the St Albans tennis court, they could move in there straight away, because 2 of the courts are not up to tennis standard.
Yeah. We can't take an action, but staff are going to take it offline and
Great.
follow that up.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
Right.
And I won't forget your name again.
Jane.
Yeah.
Pauline.
Just wanted to give a shout out to, oh yeah, actually the Edgware Pool.
Oh, yeah.
It's only taken 19 years.
You forgot to clap.
But
Sorry, I
amazing.
read it.
So that's an incredible milestone. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But also the Woolworths proposal in Madras Street, they do have a consent in with council and it is publicly notified, and they asked for it to be publicly notified, and the submissions for that close on the 16th of April. So, and one of the concerns that we had a meeting with John Higgins and Mark Stevenson, and you can't fight it on commercial competition, but if it was going to be eventuate that, sorry, my brain's not working, if it eventuated that it caused shop closures in Edgware Village, that would be a very, very sad day. And so that would be a big reason why not to grant it. And that's quite a possibility. And the other negatives to it would be traffic and things like that. So if anyone wants to put a submission in either for or against, it's closing on the 16th of April. So I thought we'd just better mention that. And
I'll just add can I add a little tiny bit to that? Also, the fact that actually Edgware Village is locally owned, and those owners support local organisations, and that social support by our businesses, local businesses, will be, if the businesses fail, then the organisations struggle as well.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Like the government's trying to break up the duopoly But the Woolworths monopoly, they'll be in the Palms, they'll be at Home Base. I think that's opening in a month. In Madras Street.
Well, Fresh,
and
Fresh Choice is owned by.
yeah,
Woolworths
Fresh
as well.
Choice and Maribel. So Maribel, there's 5 within 4.2 kilometres.
Then you've got your New Worlds. Anyway, that's by the by. I mean, some people might think supermarkets really is a great idea, and that's good. But I'm just letting people know that the submissions close on the 16th. And I think that's about all that I have for today.
Cool. Jake?
At the risk of being told to submit a CSR, which I can do, but to make the board aware as well, I'm happy to do a CSR. The Step Ahead Trust on Stanmore Road, behind that bit of land is a big empty bit just behind Beverley Park. It used to be the old bowls thing there on Stanmore Road, and it's obviously our land and we maintain it, but Step Ahead, for those that, they came along to the community board, they would have interest in using and activating that space. So that could be a neat wee project that I'm sure could be a win-win for them and a win-win for us.
Sounds good. Yeah, we can certainly take that off.
I'll submit a CSR, but I'll CC Mark and the community governance team.
So that's actually, if you want to pick that up as a board project.
Well, it's a little bit bigger than
I mean, that's something that, you might look at in the next term, yeah.
Yeah, I do think it does sit in that community governance space.
So the
I do have the microphone on. That's all right.
The board priorities, do we look at those at the beginning of every training and change them and tweak them?
Board plan, yes.
So that would be a time to bring something like that.
Victoria?
Yeah, 2 things. The Aorangi Wailaki road works and the bus diversion that's in place, an ongoing issue with the bus diversion down Condell Avenue, and there's no temporary bus stops. And it's really interesting because the bus drivers are just stopping willy-nilly wherever they feel like on any particular day up and down Condell Ave. So when you use that route, you push your buzzer at the bottom of Condell thinking, well, I'll let the bus driver drop me off when I get to Greers Road, but they just stop. So I've been working with our local ECAN councillor, Joe, to try and get some movement from ECAN about installing a temporary stop somewhere along the route, because it's going all the way from Wailaki, Greers, all the way down Condell, back along Blythe and back to Wailaki. And it's about almost 1.5 k's for some people trying to get to a bus stop on the way home.
Wow.
So the reason that ECAN said, well, we can't do it because we don't want to put them in another stop because we're trying to stick to the timetable. So I'm going really hard with ECAN to say, actually, public safety has got to be an issue that you need to consider. So I'm working with Joe to see if we can get any movement on it, because it's in place. It's about 6 months that this diversion's in place. And when I get on the bus to go home, I have no idea where I'm going to get off any night. I have no idea when the bus drives.
Would it be helpful for me to write something saying the board?
Look, I wasn't sure that we could do recommendations or actions from this, but
I can just tell you that I can do that.
Yeah, look, it'll be great. We've got we're having these regular public drop-in sessions that Isaacs have started, which have been really useful. They're holding them monthly for us. And this is an issue that just keeps coming up time and time again. So the Isaac staff are working with the council staff to try and move it. They're not getting anywhere. So now I'm working with ECAN to keep moving it along. It's most unsatisfactory. So that's the first thing. The second one,
Happy to throw some board support on.
That'll be wonderful.
Everyone else is happy for them.
Yep. Second one was just we whispered to Simon, trying to understand when are the new signalised railway safety barriers coming online, please. If someone can take that offline and let us know.
Yeah, I've had
because I
someone
think the
email me.
infrastructure is now in place, and it was just a matter of timing to get it all coordinated. Would like an update on that, please.
Ali?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the drop-in session at McFarlane Park last week about the planting plan for the trees that are coming out, it was really good to have Hannah Ballantyne there from the comms team from engagement. And she was doing an amazing job at walking around and listening to some of the staff who are very good at what they do, but not necessarily great at communicating sometimes with people. I don't mean that in a negative way at all. It's just, they're very good at what they do. And she was taking notes and is following that stuff up. And I thought that that was brilliant. And she was even being proactive in saying, do you want me to follow that up? So I wanted to, and I've mentioned that already to the Chief Executive and to her manager, Tessa. So thank you for that. Still getting some inquiries from the community as to what the succession plan is. I think we're in a good space, a much better space now with the community, the way that it's being managed, the way that Tree Tech are working. The party for them last week as well, the traffic management, even though the traffic management plan time was incorrect and we had to get that changed at the last minute. But anyway, but we're still not really very clear on what the succession plan is for the streets, for these trees that are being removed. So I'd like to know if we could, again, I first asked last July, I think, could we have a briefing please with staff on that? It was also really interesting to learn at the drop-in session, something I didn't know, which is that definite line between transport assets with trees and parks and trees. So, and that's exactly what I was doing too, John. So it was explained to us, which was good. You can't just replace a tree with pittosporum because a tree is a transport tree asset. And it doesn't become that or isn't that any longer if you change it from a tree to a bush. Now, I know that sounds silly, but these are really important things that we have to understand to be able to communicate them to members of the public who are asking for what they think is quite basic, but actually there's a delineation between departments and it's hard to. So, sorry, short of that is could we have a really good session with the tree staff and also look at the number of or the types of trees that can go in and why. And when you take one tree out and put two in, it doesn't contribute to canopy, but it does add to the numbers in the city, and they're two different things. So there are a whole lot of things that I think we need to talk about around that. Thank you very much.
The difference, if I may, is that the transport team doing the street trees.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And I think the residents want canopy trees back. And I think most of those trees that they had on the piece of paper that I thought canopy was going to come on Sunday and rain, but obviously she couldn't. It's quite a few, they're all big trees that they're going to.
They can't put canopy trees back though because of the electricity.
They can put trees in that can be pruned and the appropriate trees.
Oh, that's
the ones that are going on Slater Street with that renewal that much.
The flowering cherries that went in on Allard Street years ago, sort of those elders, then they can just be pruned so they're still high, but they're under the problem area and they can be shaped.
This is different to what I've heard from staff as well, so that's why I think it would be really helpful to have a briefing. Yeah, thank you.
But it was a good turnout, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great.
Session, and the Papa Happy group are really good.
Yeah, the little kids were gorgeous.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Emma?
I just want to make the board aware, Peck Street Park, again with the Madras proposed supermarket here. They are very worried about the traffic coming.
We've had a response from Mark and that's happening offline.
Yeah. What?
Did you get that response that was sent to Pauline this afternoon? You might know.
Just something happening offline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. About traffic counts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Brad?
Can I just clarify that bus issue was not about me. I just happen to be a number 8 user, but there are lots of people that are using that bus that are getting off all over.
Good save. Good save.
Quite impressive.
I just wondered about the optics. But yeah, it's an issue that's constantly coming up at the public information sessions with the users of those buses and people when you're on the bus going, I don't know where I'm getting off.
And it's interesting to know that buses are actually legally allowed to stop anywhere they like. They don't have to stop on the bus stops. So if you're running for the bus, they can stop and pick you up anywhere. Whether they do or not, I don't know.
Yes, what the timetable if they do that, wouldn't they? Right, anyone else? Okay, well, okay, so we'll move to our karakia. Please.
Yeah.
No.
Close the meeting. Right.
Thank you.